not gonna hear anything, you're not gonna hear anything. That's around 38, 39 decibels. At my house, I will hear between 45, 60, 65 decibels. Yes, you can talk. Hi, Albert. Hard to talk? Turn that fan off. Sure sounds a lot better, doesn't it? So, yes, you will hear noise. So first off, I have to comment on something since the mayor called me out last week at the end of the meeting and said that 13 days ago that I want to remind Mr. Bryan that his house was once a farm. There is a 300-year-old oak tree in my front yard. 300. Now, there was no farm there when, in our lifetimes, in the mayor's lifetime, nor in his father's, grandfather's, probably great-grandfather's. So no, Mr. Mayor, my house was not a farm. There's this thing called Google Maps, and you can go back in Google Maps. And so I Google Map back to 2003, and our property is about, the development's 52 or something acres like that. And yes, there was a farm. It was a 7-acre, looks like an alfalfa farm, with another 2 acres that was the barn and the support land around it. 9 acres. Guess what? The equestrian center that's out there now, it's 9 acres. So, no, Mr. Mayor, my house was not a farm. Just as much as it was where you live. So, secondly, I'd like to say hello to my friends in the building trades. I kind of close my eye. If I close my eyes and wake up, I think I'm in Springfield. Because in Springfield, when organized labor cannot get what they want at the collective bargaining table, they march on down to Springfield and they ask the legislators to get a forum. Up to Jay Hoffman or Ron Villavaum, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And when the politicians have a problem getting a bill across the finish line, they do the opposite. They call organized labor to come in and push it across. I was a union and contractor. I sit on a union pension health and welfare fund. I am not against organized labor. I'm not against data centers. I'm just not for data centers in my backyard and in residential areas. The property, for all you to know, is currently zoned residential. That's why I bought there. They want to change it to industrial. I identified a great piece of property for this project in Whiteside County. There's an airport there, there's a huge ComEd substation, and you know what? You know how many people will feel the magnitude of this? One, the farmer that sells the property. Not all the other residents around it, because there aren't any. So I just want to make sure that you understand it. I'm sure that you in the building trades would not want your spouse and your family to come home and listen to this when they go outside to play. So I'm going to attempt to not repeat what I've already done. I'm going to have to do a few things because I didn't expect Mr. Olson to give the whole presentation again, which there are so many holes in. So, first off, one of the things in the Planning and Zoning Commission from May 6th in the original application for special use, they call the property vacant farmland. I wear this hat because America needs farmers. Don't insult the farmers of America and call that property vacant. It is farmland and it's valuable for people if you want to eat. So initially when I heard about this project in April, I just was worried about the huge buildings, and I talked to someone like, dude, we gotta find out about the noise. I'm like, the noise? So I investigated. This was the first hour of the over 150, not including all the hours I've spent in this room studying this. I know more about data centers than I met with Sue Resin, who's our state senator, and she's like, geez, you know as much as I do. Well, you know why? She sits on a committee, national committee about data centers. I highly recommend that before you do anything, you reach out to her to talk to her after she gets back from DC to discuss these things. So, and so then I started doing my research, and it was, since everything changes, initially it was 310,000 gallons a day, which would have represented 13% of the new water that's coming in from Lake Michigan via the DuPage Water Commission. 13%. And by the way, Yorkville's paying, I think, $100 million for that water line. And guess what? Oh wait, I'm pretty sure that over and over and over again, Pioneer Assets has said that there will be no taxpayer money in this. Remember, all infrastructure is supposed to be paid by the developer. It goes along with every development. Not the case with this one. So then they say, okay, well, now they're gonna bring in distilled water. Okay, that's great. So distilled water, I believe according to my calculations, that will be close to 400 tankers per week driving down those roads. Are they in the noise studies? Are your cars in the noise studies to get to the project? No, they are not. Speaking of the DuPage Water Commission, a couple of meetings ago, the bids came in. They talked about it this morning, and they were high. So Mr. Olson stated, well, it was going to be directional bore, but now we're gonna open cut down Book Road in Naperville. You can tell how much he cares about the people that live in around this community. Can you imagine being a commuter and have a Book Road in Naperville go down to one lane? Just an example. Energy. 1,800 megawatt facility. That's enough to power 1.4 million homes. 1.4 million homes. If you total the 3,000 acres that Yorkville wants, that's close to 4 million homes. Backup generators. They're going to have to fire them up every single day between 8 in the morning, well, Monday through Friday, between 8 in the morning and 5 at night. I will hear that hum at 60 decibels every single Monday through Friday. But the mayor is happy because I get to have a quiet breakfast. Here's a really good one. In the original, because see, they didn't touch it in Mr. Olson's presentation. They didn't touch on everything. So in the initial on May 6th, they said there would be one solar farm powering this data farm. You want to know how big that solar farm has to be? 20 square miles. I'll put that in perspective. If you take the project from Baseline Road to Galena Road on 47, it's about 2 miles wide, extend it to the east, it'll take you to Copley Hospital. If you want to take it from Baseline Road on Baseline Road from Ash to 47 and extend it south, you're gonna go past Millbrook. You go to Walker Road, 20 square miles. I have checked on the Iowa, website and whatnot. They don't have that capacity yet. They actually, if they get that capacity, whenever that would be, you're going to need new, what is that? What are they called? 765 kilobeat per minute wires. So they have to run them from North Dakota and Iowa, North Dakota through Minnesota and down here. And then they'll end up at the substation. Then they'll have to run it to the property, and then they'll drop it, and at what is it, 138, or yeah, they'll run a 340 kilobeat per minute wire to the site, drop it down, and split it to 138 at the substations that you're gonna build, and then it'll be metered, and then it'll be split, and blah, blah, blah. So when Pioneer Assets from Sheridan, Wyoming, by the way, I will not call them Pioneer Development, when they say that ComEd is demanding this, ComEd's not demanding it. I have talked to ComEd, and I have talked to people at ComEd that are up, and they're like, it's just a matter of the developer and where they want to put it. Well, it's obviously more expensive, so that's why they say they want to go on the West End. I appreciate that they're thinking about going to the East End, but the noise. The mayor asked a couple meetings ago also why he couldn't put why the developer couldn't put solar panels on the roofs. The roof's full of industrial fans. When it's said that the chillers for air cooled versus water cooled are quieter, of course they are. But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? They didn't mention how loud the fans would be. The fans are what make the noise. Air-cooled data centers are up to 15% louder than water-cooled. So there's a give and take. People don't want the water being taken, so they make them air-cooled. Well, they're louder. So that is another, there's so many mistruths in this presentation, it's hard to even fathom. So they said there's no pollution. And this is the one from May 6th. They didn't touch on that today. Sure, there's no pollution. Well, they didn't mention the generators. Either gas or diesel. They gotta be one of the two. They are going to pollute the atmosphere. So that's misinformation number one. There will be no school burden. That's a check mark. Good one. Fact is, if you want it, I heard Yorkville needs a new middle school. You know what? Why don't you move the middle school people into the high school, build a new high school on that 1,000 acres. Nothing better than for me to walk across the street and watch Friday Night Lights. Generate property taxes, that's up in the air because of the mega bill. Job creation, but higher wage. So you've got 1,037 acres that you might get 420 some jobs on. I touched on the noise already. And also on May 6th, this is the best, because on May 6th, the presentation said there will be no noise. Not some noise, not a little noise, not terrible noise, no noise, zero. So the first time I hear a generator or the chillers, who do I call? Who do I sue? Where do I get my cease and desist? Do I march back down to the county and get it? Because on May 6th, because it passed out of development, economic and zoning, whatever it's called, it was stated zero noise, no noise. So I'm just curious about that. Mr. Olson mentioned about the City of Aurora the last couple of meetings. And he's, just kind of brushed it off. Oh yeah, they didn't make Cyrus 1 put in the sound wall. And so I actually still know people in the City of Aurora. And one of them's an architect, and he's a City of Aurora staffer. And I told him about this. He said, yeah, we gave him the temporary operating permit, and they didn't put the noise wall on. He goes, but John, you've got to realize, those are on the ground. Yours are on a 58-foot building, so the noise won't travel. Here's a good example. Has anyone ever seen a tornado warning on the ground? A tornado siren on the ground? No, it's up about 70 feet. Why? Because the sound travels further to give more people warning. So putting that noise up there, the sound is going to travel further. In fact the Burlington Northern Santa Fe line, I call it the Faxon Railroad. It's south of the site. And the mayor was quoted on that one, something like, well, maybe we can make it a little quieter for them up north. He cares a lot for us. So here we are. I'm about done. The Tribune reported yesterday of the potential political undoings of the incumbents that vote to have DCs in their community due to an increase in electric prices. Now, I understand you can put them, you're gonna put them somewhere, so we're probably gonna have to deal with higher prices, but you know how people spin things in politics. When I reported my construction estimates, which I've already said, so I won't go into the 60,000 concrete 8 cubic yard ready-mix trucks that are going to be on this site and everything else, I forgot to mention the 7,800 miles of fiber optic cable that'll be needed for this project. How many truckloads is that? I don't have a clue. What about all the underground? I talked to a man that's been in the electric business for a long time, and he said, JP, the infrastructure, the civil engineering is outrageous, and there's so much that has to be done underground and above ground, most of it underground, that I don't even know what that, the sanitary sewer, the storm sewer, the lane of these electric lines. How many more trucks is that? There's no estimate of the construction traffic yet that I've seen, not a single one. Not to mention all these gentlemen that wanna work there in their vehicles. I mean, they've said that this is gonna be great for the community. Put it in the noise study, because the construction, 10 years, I've also talked to a couple of my friends in labor, and they just shake their head. No way. And so if it's 20 years, which it really is closer to, because they say 1 to 2 years, 1 to 2 buildings at a time will take 1.5 to 2 years to complete. Well, that's 20 years. So if that's going to be 25% of the project, don't you think you should have that in your noise studies? Pioneer Assets wants to jam this through, just as the nation is figuring out how bad these are. Every single day, my logarithm shows up on my phone, and it shows a negative story about data centers. You mentioned Loudoun County. Loudoun County, they're fit to be tied. It was stated by Matt McCarron, who is the representative of Pioneer Assets, that my property values will go up. Do you really think my property values will go up living next to a data center? I mean, really? I mean, if that's not the biggest lie you've ever heard in your life, then, and I got some property on the moon I can sell you, and you can put a data center up there. So you're gonna change you're gonna change the look and the feel of Yorkville forever. Forever. If this PUD is for 20 years, you guys aren't gonna have to deal with it. Your children are, and your grandchildren, if they even wanna live in Illinois anymore with one of those things next to all the bad thing that's going on around here. But you have to look at the negative consequences. Build it somewhere else. I mean, it doesn't belong in a residential area. It belongs by an interstate. Or Trump wants to build a bunch of them, put them in federal lands. Don't put them in the middle of a residential area on very, very, very valuable prime farmland. Thank you.